Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man. As always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. At this particular time, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to entitle this, but by the time you're watching it, you have a title under it. What prompted me to do this video, and I'm going to try to condense this. I might even have to do part 2. What prompted me to do this video is I just seen, you know how they have these, I guess, documentaries on these artists. And being a professional musician myself and knowing not only the music business aspect of the music business, but the business. And that's the part that most of us fail to realize. There are two parts. Now, the first part comes naturally because if you're in the business, you got some kind of talent. But the second one is the business that you got to acquire. And I've seen this documentary on this particular group. And I'm not going to mention their name because that is not important, because there's so many artists or groups that follow in his footsteps. It's like this. And I'm going to kind of tell their story, but again, I'm not going to give their names. They came to a record label artist, and he was kind of like the P. Diddy of his time. He was before P. Diddy. He had his own record label. He had artists on there. They were making a lot of money. So this guy introduced these guys to him. He liked them, and he said the first thing he noticed about them was they were poor. They had holes in their shoes. They had raggedy clothes. And then when he flew them back in after they signed the contract, he took them out and bought clothes for them, bought them a house, because he really was behind them. He really felt that they had talent. They did. They sold platinum records. And you go from being dirt poor to being given an opportunity. And let me stress that, being given an opportunity to be successful. Everybody don't get that. Everybody don't get a $1 million signing bonus to record companies, and then a $2 million if the first album did well. So consider yourself fortunate. Now, I'm not gonna say you got there because you were just talented, because there are a lot of people that are talented that can sing as good as you or better, and they ain't never got nothing other than, you know, at parties or talent shows they were told they were good. You know, so that's not something that's given to everybody, those kind of opportunities. And then that within itself, you should be extremely appreciative that you even fortunate enough to get that, you know. And still one minute you ain't got a job and you broke and you're dirty and you got holes in your clothes. The next year you done made $1 million, and you don't appreciate where you came from, that transition. Because again, it would be no big deal if everybody was given that opportunity, but everybody don't. The most competitive industries in the world is the entertainment and sports. You can go to the post office and most likely you keep trying, you get that job, you know, one of them. But as far as sports, and I forgot the ratio, they say for every one guy you see on the field that made it, about 500 that tried to get this job and they didn't. You know, so that's one thing that I think most of us should think about, you know, the appreciation of being given this opportunity. So I'm going to attempt, like I said, I might have to condense this or do 2 parts because it's just so much to cover so you can understand. Because again, I am a professional musician, and I've been in this business since I was about 19 years old. And I was fortunate enough to have the foresight and also my parents backing me to say, hey, don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I did something that was unique. I kept a corporate job while I was doing this professionally, because I'm like, I don't have to quit my corporate job to write songs. I could write them because when I get home from work, and that's exactly what I did. You know, I had a strong work ethic where I'm like, I go knock out my 8 hours because I got to take care of my daughter. You know, I got a wife, and then I come home and work on the music, you know, 4 or 6 hours. So my day was full, you know. So, because I didn't want to run the risk of giving up a job that's going to most likely allow me to retire, which it did, for a job that in 2 years I might get kicked off the label. You know, my records stopped selling. Nobody wants to sell or buy my songs or record them. I'm like, I'm not going through that, because I used to remember those horror stories of people from rags to riches. They found one guy that had been homeless for 10 years. Come to find out, he was the musical director for Marvin Gaye's band in the 60s and the 70s when Marvin was on fire. So it's like, what the fuck happened? You went from this to this. And, you know, and that's because this business is a very risky business. You know, there are some people that do make it and make it good. You know, they spend the rest of their life doing this and doing it well. Madonna, the late Prince, the late Michael Jackson, you know, people like that. But that's not the average or the norm in the music industry. Those people are the exceptions. But they're marketed as though this is the norm. Once you know start singing, you go out there trying to get a record contract, you're gonna be like all them dudes. No, you're not. Most of you are not gonna be like those dudes, you know. But again, I'm gonna try my best to condense this because it's just so much to cover. And the purpose of this video is to shed some light on how the music business operate for people that are not in it. You know, for people that just enjoy the music, but they don't have no idea. And their ideas that they do have is based on what others have told them, which is not true. You know, and I'm going to use Prince as an example. And I'm not going to dwell on him because whenever I do, people that in love with that man start tripping and leaving comments. But it's the truth. You know, Prince had the audacity to put the word slave across his cheek. Now, my question to you is, how many multi-millionaire slaves do you know? Okay, Prince is a multi-millionaire, or was a multi-millionaire. Come on, Mike. Testing. And he had the audacity to be complaining about his record deal. And let me just say this, because this is fact. I'm not making this up. I'm not lying. It's the truth. Prince had one of the most lucrative recording contracts in the history of the recording industry. He got it when he was 17, but he couldn't start work till he was 18 because he was legal then. But he was given that deal when he was a teenager. And I can understand why, because he was a very talented man. But that's how the music industry works. You know, it's like there are people that just don't appreciate what they got. It's like, because, again, this is how it works. And a lot of people, again, don't realize this because they don't know this. They don't know this aspect of the business. Any record company that signs you are taking a risk. I repeat that. Any record label that signs you are taking a risk. And what I mean by that is this. I'm an owner of a record company. I sign you, you know, to maybe a 3-album deal. Now, my responsibility right out the gate is financially. Okay, now we got to start putting together recording material for you, hit songs. So I got to go out and spend my money on the best producers that I can find because I believe that much in you. That could cost anywhere from $1 million to $10 million. Right there. So right there and spend $10 million on your ass, you know, before you even sold a record. And that's just the beginning. Okay, you get the great producers and the writers. Now you got to go out and hire the musicians. So you got to hire the musicians, you got to hire the songwriters. So then they got to go into the studio. Guess who's paying for that? The record company. So by the time an album has been completed, they could have spent $30 million on you. And then here's the thing that, again, most of you don't know. The majority of that money is a loan towards your future royalties and payment. Because they're not doing this. We're going to spend $50 million on you. Well, I'm going to just lower it down. We're going to spend $20 million on you. And then you go out there and sell records and the record sales, all that money go to you. No, it don't. You got to pay off that money because that's a loan towards your future sales. And when record companies sometimes are generous enough to put you up and buy you a house, you got to pay that house, pay for that house. They didn't give you nothing. You know, so there are a lot of people that don't realize that. And then you hear the stories about how the artists went broke. And I've seen this time and time again, even on a personal level. I know some of these people. They made $10 million last year. This year, they broke. Why? Because they went out and wasted a lot of that money. Instead of how rich people do it, they invest their money to make more money. They don't just get that lump sum and start spending all their money. But that's what we do. What is the first thing that most, and I'm going to say this because it unfortunately tends to fall on us more than anybody. What is the first thing that black people go out and buy when they get a lump sum of money? A fucking car. That's totally different when you need the car, or a certain type of car. But we go out and waste our money on cars. Cars depreciate as soon as you drove them off that lot. It's still a value. A house, which increase in value. Investing in stock, which goes up. Investing in gold, which goes up. Things that go up is still a go down. Because we haven't been taught that. We've been taught to spend it, and we do a great job of spending it. But also, you got to think about what you're spending it on, and is it going to bring you any kind of returns instead of that money gone? You bought this, and you got this, and it's depreciating every year, and it's going to break down and stop, and that money gone. Instead of, again, investing in stocks, investing in up-and-coming businesses, we don't know nothing about that. Some of us, and unfortunately, again, we're good at spending and not saving. So it's like we get these lump sums of money, and we just go through it like we done lost our minds. When I first got a pretty big lump sum after selling this record that went through the roof, I went and bought a used little tiny truck. I'm like, I don't need no sports car or a brand new car or, just something that dependable, gets me to point A, point B, and looks kind of nice, Because I could have easily went that route and bought me this drop top that at that time Michael Jordan was driving one. I'm like, I can afford that. But I'm like, realistically, I don't need that. And I'm just going to bring in more problems than I need to have at this point if I'm living in a certain neighborhood and I'm driving a certain kind of, upscale car. Everybody going to be eyeing me for the wrong reasons. So I'm like, I don't want to be caught up in that. I can do better with that money. And I did. I put it aside. I saved it. I made some investments. So I'm like, I'm not going that route because I see how it ends up for most of those guys to go that route. In 2 years, they broke. And same thing with NBA players. As soon as they leave the league, less than 5 years, they broke. Why? Because they spent all that money. They spent all that money instead of investing that money or just saving it to say, okay, well, I'm okay, so let me just put this a little bit to the side because I really don't need to spend this. Because trust me, there are going to be things that come up where you're going to need some money to get them resolved. I don't think not too many people in this world can escape that something's going to come up. Somebody hit your car, somebody steal your car, you get sick, somebody in your family gets sick, somebody in your family lose their job, run the risk of losing their house, all that stuff is going to come up. But we got to be mindful of, first of all, being very thankful for giving this opportunity, because again, most of us don't get this opportunity to make that kind of money. Then second, stop spending it like you done lost your mind and you don't have any sense on what to spend your money on. Because again, the music industry is very risky. You don't know if you're going to be successful or not. The record company don't know, but they're willing to put up that money up front to get you out there. And for the ones at the end that start complaining and bitching like a prince, it's like, well, you know what you should have done, dude? You should have raised $1 million for yourself and promoted yourself and reap all the benefits 100%. Because again, it's the issue about you want the masters. You're not getting the masters. It's obvious why you're not. And let me explain it to the people that don't know. Again, the record company is taking a big risk on trying to make you successful. And when you record your stuff on a big reel, well, now it's digital, it's called the master. And the master is owned by the record company because they're the ones to put up all that money to try to get you out there. And then as far as the master, there these issues as far as how people want to keep them. Because it's real simple. If you got the master, you can mass produce your records yourself. The record company is responsible for that. That's what they do. That's their job. But again, I'm going to condense this because, like I said, this could be easily an hour, because I've had these kind of conversations and they last for an hour, if not longer, because there's so much to absorb. But I'm just going to kind of wrap it up by saying this. The record company, now I'm not saying that the offer that they give you is a great one for you, because it's not. It's about them making money. First and foremost, if they can't make no money with you, they're not going to be bothered with you. So it's just that simple. And it got nothing to do with how talented you are, because I've seen people that ain't, not, in my opinion, talented at all, but they were there at the right place at the right time, and they had the right people behind them. And I've seen some people that could just sing all day long. Sing is almost as good as Luther. They don't make it. And it's not because of their talent, it's just the way that the business operates. A lot of times just being at the right place at the right time, the right era can get you in there. It's about that. It's about luck. It's not always 100% about he's a talented singer, because if that was the case, just about everybody that you hear on the radio would be extremely talented. Or should I say extremely lucky and fortunate, to have made this kind of impact on their career, had a great career, so it's not solely based on talent. If I had to choose between talent and just the right time, right image, right era, I would actually pick the second one over talent. Because again, you can find guys all day long that can sing, but the question is, can we get them out there and make them successful? But, it's just interesting, to watch these documentaries on these artists that just got greedy. Someone's like, I want to write my own songs, versus the guy that's one of the greatest songwriters in the history of music. I'm going to say this, and I am going to name a name. Boys to Men. A lot of people didn't want to work with them after their second album because they got big hits. And then on the third album, I think it was the third one, Babyface was brought in, and he wrote I'll Make Love to You. And they told him they didn't like that song. They're not going to do it. And then the record company called them and gave him a tongue lash. It's like, this ain't about what you want to do. It's about us selling product, whether you like it or not. So they were forced to, by their contracts, to record that song. And that was the biggest song they ever had on the charts. Egos. Sammy Davis Jr. For 2 years, his manager was on him about recording the Candyman. And Sammy Davis Jr. thought that song was beneath him. It was childish. It was infantile. And it wasn't infantile, and it wasn't childish. It was just a really lighthearted, delightful song. There was nothing demeaning about that song or childish, anything. It was just a delightful song. So he finally recorded just to get his manager off his back, because he didn't want to do it. And that became the biggest song of his career. It's not always about what you want to do, because it's not about you. When you go to work, it's not about you. It's about you contributing to the company and making it grow. And as a result of that, they compensate you by paying you a nice, comfortable wage and giving you health benefits, and then setting you up for your twilight years and retirement, 4K1 plans, Social Security, and things of that nature. Because there's going to come a time you're not going to be able to work anymore, or you don't want to work no more. You're 60 years old. It's like, I've been working since I was 12. So bills still got to be paid when you retire, and other things, health now kicks in, because when you're 19 years old, your medical card don't mean nothing to you. When I got hired at one of the largest food chains in the world, and I love that company, didn't want to leave after 14 years. What happened was, I'm about to lose my thought, and that was a good point I was about to make. Give me a second, because I don't want to cut the camera off and not mention this. Dang, I guess I'm going to have to. But I worked at this food store chain, and I loved it. And damn, I can't remember. I haven't had enough sleep. I've been getting about maybe 3 hours of sleep for the last week, because I got so much stuff to do. That's why I didn't want to go out there and cut that grass, because I was busy, and I told you about that story. But anyway, I'm going to sign off now. But for those, again, that take their opinions based on people in the industry that are salty because they got greedy, and I can imagine, even though it never happened to me, that you can become a different person. What I mean by that is this. And I'll give you a good example of watching the Brady Bunch, one of my favorite all-time sitcoms, up there with Fred Sanford and Son. I think it was it? I want to say it was Jan or Marsha. Okay, one of them had a girlfriend that was real quiet and shy, you know. And Marsha decided she gonna give her a makeover and did her hair and changed her dress code, and now all the boys are hanging around her. And she went from this real quiet, shy person to this real arrogant, self-absorbed person that nobody liked. And it's like because they created a monster. And for some people, you know, I can imagine, you know, the monster was created. But you got to be who you are, and you got to treat people in the manner that you want to be treated. You know, that's very important, because you don't know when you're going to need some of these people, unless you just 100% guarantee that you'll never need anybody and you're going to have everything you need. Then you can be the asshole you want to be. But in real life, there's going to come a time that you're going to need somebody. So you better be good to the people that you think you're going to need. And just be good to them in general. Not just because you think you're going to need them in the future, but just be a kind-hearted person. You know, you reap a lot of rewards when you're that versus being an asshole. Because at some point in time, people will get tired of dealing with your nonsense and they're going to leave. You know, people can only take so much stuff before they decide to pack it up and get out your life. You know, so be smart enough to keep the people in your life that care about you and you care about them. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to actually do a part 2 to this because, like I said, there's a lot of other stuff I want to cover. You know, as far as technically really getting into the technical aspect of the business. Because again, we all can handle the music aspect because we're talented, but we know nothing about, most of us, the business aspect. And we need to pay attention to that second component, because that could be the difference between you living a very comfortable, enjoyable life for the rest of your life versus 2 years after being in the industry and made millions of dollars, you broke. You know, you broke. And then you didn't kind of start drinking and doing drugs to kind of compensate or offset the depression, and now you're just making a bad situation worse by adding those other components. Because for some reason, those go hand in hand in the music industry. I've never had the desire, thanks to, you know, my upbringing and my mother and father telling me the right things to do, to go out there and start smoking, to go out there and start drinking too much liquor, to go out there to start sticking needles in your arm, to go out there to start snorting shit up your nose, you know, and all that crazy stuff. Because that's crazy stuff. You're damaging your body. And if you realize how magnificent the human body is, you wouldn't put anything in there other than what needs to be put in there. Instead of, I want to be cool like these other idiots, so I'm going to start taking drugs. Or I went to this party and we start snorting coke. You know, none of that. And I've witnessed this firsthand. I've been to these industry parties and they got the shit laid out on the table. Idiots. I'm like, look at these idiots. And they're idiots. That's what they are. They're idiots. You know, you don't want to do anything that's going to damage the body. Damage this magnificent machinery. You know, it tries to heal itself. It tries to protect itself. And what you're going to do is damage it and try to keep it from doing what it can do. You know, I never understood that. You know, there's nobody that's going to press me to the point just to be a part of their clique. Because if I got to go through all that to be a part of your clique, have a good day. I shouldn't be here. You know, instead of, okay, I want to be in the in crowd and popular like these other idiots, because that's what they are. They're idiots. You know, and 2 years down the line, I got a habit now that I can't kick and I got to go to rehab, or I'm found dead in the bathtub. You know, I'm sorry, but I don't have sympathy for people that end up like that, because I'm like, you make that choice. You know, you weren't forced into that choice, or it was hereditary. You made that decision to follow these other idiots. And what happens to those idiots is usually not going to be a happy ending. So what makes you think you so special that, no, this ain't going to happen to me? I'm sure all them people that found dead in the bathtub or dead with a needle in their arm, they thought the same shit. You know, and you see where it got them. You know, you ain't special. You ain't no different. Only time you can be different if you decide to go against the grain and say, no, thank you. You know, because in high school, everybody's offering me that. I'm like, no, thanks, man. Why? I don't want it. You ain't cool. Well, let me be not cool and keep my pink lungs, okay? That sounds like a good deal to me. And still and then, you know, my lungs all fucked up. You know, I'm gonna have a heart attack because I snorted too much stuff, or I didn't shot too much stuff, you know. But I'm gonna sign off now. Sorry for that tangent, but you know, just Try to keep it real and try to help young folks to say, you know what, I think I'm going to go with the Morris Man plan. I'm not going to be doing that stuff because my friends want me to. And then in 2 years, you'll be glad that you didn't, because they're going to either be dead or in jail, trying to sell it or try to use it. Till next time, take care. I'm going to do a part 2 to this. Yeah, I'm going to do a part 2.